This video will cover unique rules with the letter groups его, tisk, ться in the reflexive form, consonant clusters, practical rules of pronunciation, and aspiration. So Russia has a bit of a unique rule when it comes to three specific letters being together, and these letters are y, g, and o, which altogether it's spelled like ivo. Now его means his, and it's spelled y, g, o, but we don't say yego, we say ivo, because when those three letters are together in Russia, we pronounce the g letter as a v, and because in a word like ivo, the o is stressed, the y will sound like e. So instead of saying yego, you say ivo. And this goes into other words as well. So we can take a word like сегодня, which means today. Now сегодня is spelled s y g o d n ya, but we don't say сегодня, we say сегодня, because same principle as before. The g becomes a v and the y becomes an e. And this is just a unique rule when these three letters are combined, whether alone in one word or combined in another word altogether. So another unique rule is that in Russian, when we have the letters t and ts in the reflexive forms of verbs, we don't really say t and ts separately in these verbs. We fuse them together into a long ts letter, into a long ts sound. So we can take a word like смеяться, which means to laugh. And смеяться is spelled s m y ya t мягкий знак, soft sign, s ya, смеяться. And we don't say смеяться, we say смеяться. So we just put the t in there. We sort of replace the t and ts and just make it ts, because they sound very similar and it's much easier to say that way. So another rule comes up when we have the letters t, s, k together. And it's quite similar to when you have t and s together, it makes a t sound. So t, s, k also becomes t, but it's a much shorter version of the sound t. So let me give you an example. We can take a word like детский, which is spelled d, y, t, s, k, и краткая. Детский, which basically means childish. Now in a word like детский, the t sound is quite short. Meanwhile, in a word like смеяться, the t is quite long, it's quite emphasized. Смеяться versus детский. So when you have t and s, the t sound is quite long. When you have t, s, k, the t sound is quite short. That's the biggest difference between these two different rules. Now, there are some instances where these rules do not always apply. There are exceptions, as with pretty much everything. So the letters, the sounds t, s do not always become a ts sound. There are some times when they are pronounced individually. So one exception would be a word like atskachit, which is spelled o, t, s, k, o, ch, i, t, мягкий знак, soft sign. And atskachit means to jump away. Now in this word we do not say atskachit, we say atskachit. So there's a clear sort of, we clearly separate the letters t and s instead of combine them into one. Like I said, there are some exceptions to these rules, and that's just one of them. So it's good to know these. Now, although at the start I mentioned that words in Russian will sound pretty much exactly how the letters are placed, so every letter will have a specific sound, there are a few exceptions, as with pretty much every rule. So in Russian, there are some words where letters can be occasionally omitted, where people just won't pronounce them, usually for the sake of convenience, just because it's a lot easier to say the word quickly without really sounding out the specific letter. So we can take a word like hello in Russian, which is здравствуйте. Funnily enough, it's quite a complicated word. So the word hello is здравствуйте. But it's spelled z, d, r, a, v, s, t, v, u, и краткая t, ye. It's a very long word. And you notice there is a v just in the middle of the word. But we don't say здравствуйте, we just say здравствуйте. So we sort of omit the v sound in the very middle, just because it's a lot easier just to say здравствуйте instead of здравствуйте. And you'll hear this, you know, everyone says it that way. That's just the way it is. There are, you know, a few other words like this, but for most cases, letters will sound out the words, you know, as I explained at the beginning, just the way they're written. But there are a few exceptions, so just keep these in mind. You'll be good. So I just want to quickly reiterate the rules that I taught you previously regarding aspiration, which once again is air coming out of the mouth, you know, in front of you. So there are three main letters in the Russian language which you really want to avoid having aspiration on. And those letters are p, k, and t. So we can take, you know, when we have words like in Russian like park, which means park, words like lampa, which means lamp, and tank, which means tank. Now, when you say these words, you should put your hand in front of your mouth and try saying them until you feel much less air hitting your hand. It's normal to have some air hitting your hand, but it should be much less than if you were saying these words, you know, in their English version. So I would say park and park. I feel much more air hitting my hand when I say the English version of the word. So p-a-r-k, park, which means park. But you should be able to put your hand in front of your mouth and feel how much air is coming out of your mouth. So when you say English, park, a lot of air comes out. But in Russian you say park, so it should be a lot less air. A few more words. P-o-l, pole, which means floor. K-r-o-t, krot, which means mole, like the animal, mole. S-t-o-l, stall, which means table. S-t-u-l, stool, which means chair. T-o-r-t, tort, which means cake. So once again, quickly for the words. P-a-r-k, park. P-o-l, pole. K-r-o-t, krot. S-t-o-l, stall. S-t-u-l, stool. And T-o-r-t, tort. So that concludes our tutorials on how to read Russian. I hope you've all learned a thing or two about the Russian language and just how to, you know, read it and get better at, you know, understanding it. I want to say, if anybody has any suggestions on, you know, other topics you would like to see covered, go ahead, leave a, you know, comment in the comment section. We do read our comments. Otherwise, yeah, that's everything, and I hope you've all learned something. I hope we've all had a bit of fun today, and, you know, have a good day.